Okay, let's unpack this. Today we are doing a deep dive into the world of a fictional narrative, but one whose emotional terrain feels just brutally real. We're talking about Andrea Portes' 2007 novel, Hick. This often gets categorized as gritlit, you know?
Right, gritlit. It's a kind of modern, I'd say, Midwestern twist on Southern Gothic.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It deals with runaways, severe family dysfunction, and just the raw mechanics of survival.
Exactly. And while the plot itself involves a lot of, well, a lot of things, travel, swindlers, some really dramatic situations, our focus isn't just on that journey.
No.
It's really on the relentless, rapid evolution of the central character, Luli. She's this sharp-witted 13-year-old girl navigating an incredibly volatile, impoverished, and just a deeply dysfunctional home life in Lancaster County, Nebraska.
So our mission today is to synthesize those core narrative beats, but also to track her psychological transformation as she makes this desperate escape west, toward the lights of Las Vegas.
And Luli's voice is everything here. It's the lens through which we see all of this chaos.
It's so distinctive. It's raw. It's often humorous, which is kind of shocking given the horror surrounding her.
Oh, absolutely, and deeply analytically descriptive. So for you, the listener, this analysis provides, a framework for understanding these complex narratives of escape.
But I think it's more than that. It's a really detailed look at how extreme neglect forces a person to generate these incredibly sophisticated internal survival strategies.
And coping mechanisms, all in real time. We're essentially watching the development of a personality under siege.
Yeah. So to really get why Luli has to escape, we have to start where she starts.
At the center of her universe, a bar called the Alibi, which the novel describes just so vividly as a red wooden shoebox.
That description as shoebox, it's instantly powerful, isn't it? It implies, chief construction confinement.
A temporary nature.
Exactly. But for Luli, it is the fixed stage for her entire existence. It's 3 miles outside Lincoln on Highway 34 toward Palmyra. And this bar it's more than a place, it's the arena.
It is. It's the arena where her parents perform their nightly cycle of destruction. A cycle that Luli has had to categorize and memorize simply to stay one step ahead of the damage.
Let's talk about those main players. First, her mother, Tammy.
Tammy is rendered in such painstaking detail. Luli describes her as ruddy-faced and getting a little too loud.
The aging Brigitte Bardot.
Yes, 10 years later and 20 pounds past what might have been, she's defined by her accessories, really. The excessive drinking of a berry lime cooler, her bright pink nails, her blonde flip-up hair, and these plastic mules.
But the detail that just locks Tammy into my memory, from Luli's hyper-observant perspective, is that seemingly trivial, almost grotesque fact.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
That her littlest toe looks like a shrimp.
Yes. And that level of detail, it shows you that Luli is constantly cataloging her mother. It's not out of love, not really. It's part of a risk assessment. She knows every single flaw.
Then there's Nick, the dad, perpetually hunched over his 7 and 7.
Which is Seagram's 7 and 7 Up, for anyone who doesn't know.
Right. And Luli's physical characterization of him is just devastating. She says he looks like a beaten question mark.
That posture of perpetual defeat. She also calls him a gray-skinned, skinny rat cowboy. It's so unflattering.
It is, but at the same time, she gives him this strange nobility. She notes his shoulder blades cut through his shirt like clipped wings.
And she secretly considers him a displaced king.
That dual perception is so critical, isn't it? She sees the potential in him, the king, the James Dean, but what she's confronted with nightly is the reality of the defeated question mark.
And the tragic core of it all, of their entire domestic life, is Nick's unrelenting, almost crippling devotion to Tammy.
He just endures this relentless verbal abuse from her. She calls him a fucking loser, a dud.
And what does he do? He just jiggles the change in his pocket, tilts his glass, and waits for a flicker of recognition or love that just never comes. It's a spectacle of codependent self-destruction.
And Luli is the audience, the forced audience of one.
So because she's trapped in this, she's developed this incredibly sophisticated, almost intellectual survival mechanism. She doesn't just watch the fight.
No, she maps it. She maps the whole chemical process. She has the entire night's drinking cycle, the automatic script, as she calls it, organized by drinks 1 through 10.
It's high-level data analysis applied to pure chaos. She is trying to gain predictive control over a completely uncontrollable environment.
Let's break that down. Drinks 1 and 2.
Those are a nice breeze. Simple. light FM, as she puts it.
Drinks 3 and 4, that's the happy phase. Everybody's best friends.
Right, and they're singing That's Life on the jukebox, which Luli immediately and correctly identifies as the anthem of drunks everywhere.
Even their joy is a cliche. It's fleeting. She knows the script. Drink 5.
Drink 5 is the calm before the storm, silence, shame.
And then drink 6 is the party crasher. Trouble is, it's inevitable now.
By drink 7 and 8, the atmosphere is just suffocating. The air is sliceable, she says. There's this surliness rising, which culminates in Tammy's aggressive, accusatory phase.
And that leads to the nightly climax. Drinks 9 and 10. The argument.
Always the same argument. Tammy initiates the escape attempt, declaring she doesn't want to be with a drunk like my dad no more.
Meanwhile, Nick, having developed, in Luli's words, a crush on drink number 10, wants to stay.
So he slams down that final glass and he storms out to the sky blue Chevy Nova.
And this is the scene that I think really defines Luli's early sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
Or her lack of it. The who gets Luli scene.
Yes. Instead of just separating, the fight immediately centers on their 13-year-old daughter. Tammy throws herself over Luli, screaming that she's her pride and joy.
She turns the whole brawl into her showstopper.
Exactly, and Nick tries to pull Luli toward the car, and it just results in this clumsy tug of war. It's theatrical cruelty at its absolute worst.
She's not a person in that moment. She's a piece of property, a rhetorical device used to win the argument.
She's a prop that validates Tammy's superiority or, Nick's lingering claim on the family. She's not a vulnerable child.
So this moment of relief, or what's supposed to be relief, comes from Ray, the 28-year-old bartender.
The freckled, strawberry blonde bartender who Luli calls Uncle Ray.
He steps in, horrified, ends the fight, and whisks Luli away in his deep red truck. And for a second, Luli thinks maybe he is her hero. She says she feels like he's taking her up into Orion's belt.
But that hope is extinguished almost immediately, just 2 fence posts past their drive.
Yeah. He stops the truck, makes up this lie about a funny noise.
And this is where Luli's innocence is forcibly converted into this terrifying realization of power.
He asks her to close her eyes and open her mouth, and then he kisses her. A 28-year-old taking advantage of a rescued 13-year-old.
And her immediate internal response is the key to her entire psychological turn. She doesn't just feel violated, she notices something.
She sees the buzzing thing in Ray's eyes.
Right. A mix of lust, pity, and this predatory need. And she realizes this gives her power over him.
She understands instantly that she could command him to do anything.
The book says, climb Chimney Rock, or go rob a bank, or take me to Lincoln. No, Omaha, no Dallas. This is the genesis of her transactional identity.
Her inherent sexual currency, which she calls her fish face, Quacky Duck's got something, can cancel out Two Broke Dad and cancels out dirt lot brawls.
The insight is chilling because, from her perspective, it's logical. If she's powerless in her poverty, this newly recognized currency offers her immediate quantifiable agency.
So she resolves to use it, to escape, and in her words, to make it go boom.
And this realization of power, however dark it is necessary for her to move forward. But it's deeply, deeply intertwined with her history of trauma, which taught her her very first lesson in emotional defense.
Dissociation.
Exactly.
Let's follow that thread. That transactional agency she just recognized with Ray.
Yeah.
It's so heartbreakingly mirrored in the most foundational trauma of her childhood, the death of her baby brother.
Right. Which cemented the absolute tyranny of their poverty.
And the memory of the baby boy is so devastating because it starts with such genuine, unadulterated hope.
It does. He was conceived when Tammy wore a baby blue dress, and Nick was ecstatic. He was floating through the door. He believed he'd married the most beautiful girl in the county.
They even received this symbol of the future, a white crib with gold trim.
But the child, Luli recounts, was born the color of moonlight, sickly and stiff. And the local doctor advised that he needed specialized care immediately.
A trip to Omaha for the best doctors and the best treatment money can buy.
And there it is, the wall. Poverty acts as a deadly, unavoidable enemy. Nick simply could not afford the trip or the care.
And the baby died after just 3 days in the incubator.
This financial failure wasn't just a loss. It completely shattered Nick's idealized aspirational self, his James Dean persona. It was the ultimate, irrefutable proof of his inability to provide, his utter defeat in life.
The aftermath was this deep psychological wound for the whole family. Tammy broke down. The symbols of hope, the blue dress, the crib, they were removed.
And that experience taught 13-year-old Luli her foundational coping mechanism. She realized she had to, in her words, throw myself over to the other side of the room and watch my dumb little life like I was watching a movie.
That is pure psychological dissociation. By viewing her own life from an external objective perspective, like it's a drama on a screen, she creates this vital protective distance.
Distance from the overwhelming emotional pain, the shame, the humiliation of her family's catastrophic failure and grief. It's how she stayed intact. But it also creates a really dangerous emotional remove.
It allows her to compartmentalize everything, and this emotional distance is maybe why, despite all the evidence, like the story of the dead baby, Luli still clings to this denial that they are poor.
Right, she meticulously lists their assets.
Yeah, she claims ownership of a 70-year-old yellow farmhouse, a green barn, a blue shack, all gifted by her grandfather. She elevates these dilapidated properties into symbols of worth.
But even these inherited assets are poisoned. Literally. Orange-vested workers warned them about dangerously high levels of lithium in the well water and advised relocation.
Which, of course, they couldn't afford.
And Tammy, ever the survivalist through delusion, viewed the lithium as a healing bonus, just twisting the danger into a positive.
Their material possessions are just as telling. One RCA-colored TV and Nick's obsessive focus, the sky blue Chevy Nova he's always tinkering with.
That car is his last vestige of control and dignity.
And the food situation is undeniable proof of their scarcity. Macaroni and cheese with tuna, blue frosting on graham crackers, and the infamous sugar sandwich.
Buttered white bread with sugar.
Ham is the aspirational food item, only for holidays, and requires the ritual of wear a shirt.
And since ham is a luxury, Luli learned another core paradoxical survival skill taught by her highly dysfunctional but, very street-smart mother. Stealing. But with a specific strategy. Tammy taught Luli to weaponize theatrical shame and piety. If Luli got caught stealing a ham from Piggly Wiggly, Tammy would launch into this dramatic performance.
Invoking Jesus Christ our Lord and Savior.
Exactly. This performance was designed to convince the shopkeeper to pity Luli and let them go. And it worked for 3 years straight. It just demonstrates that in Luli's world, morality is entirely situational.
And performance, whether it's pious or promiscuous, is the most reliable tool for acquisition.
Luli's ability to categorize and predict, it extends beyond the liquor cycle and into the physical environment of her home.
The kitchen ashtray.
The kitchen ashtray. She uses it as a literal weather vane to gauge the household's mood and safety. It's her personal risk assessment system.
If it's empty, it's partly sunny, the coast is clear.
If it's merely full, the storm has passed, they're probably in bed.
But a full ashtray with a lit cigarette, that means the storm is actively rolling in.
That corresponds to those volatile drinks 8 through 13. She knows exactly when to disappear.
And the worst case scenario, the Category 5 warning, is a full ashtray with more than one lit cigarette.
Which means Nick has corralled barflies over. Unwitting participants in the family drama, leading to hollering, throwing bottles, and knocking that front door off its hinges.
She even notes the door has been slammed off its hinges so many times they don't even bother to fix it anymore.
That structural failure is a perfect metaphor for the home itself. This constant, sophisticated calculation of risk-mapping chaos, mastering performance, utilizing transactional power, it all shows Luli isn't just a passive victim.
No, she's a highly adaptive survivor. And this hyper-awareness is what sets the stage for her final, inevitable departure.
And the immediate catalyst for her escape begins with a disruption to this whole system. The presence of a man named Luxfeld.
A man in a gray suit sitting in their kitchen.
A complete anomaly. A figure of wealth and order in their chaos.
And a man in a suit is so out of place in their faded yellow farmhouse that Luli's already heightened paranoia just spikes. She's fueled by stories of local violence, like the Alliance shooting of a family.
Including a modern Miss Teenage Nebraska runner-up, so she arms herself instantly.
And her weapon of choice says so much about her upbringing. A cockroach-colored .45 Smith & Wesson.
A gift from Uncle Nipper for her 13th birthday.
Along with a take me drunk I'm home t-shirt. She's ready to demonstrate the hot moves I picked up from Clint Eastwood.
But the confrontation takes this really startling turn. She confronts Luxfeld, who claims to be in investments in land, with the gun, and asks him a question.
A question seeking validation. Do you think I'm pretty? Like, if you saw me passing by, would you want to kiss me or something?
She is instantly testing that transactional power she discovered with Ray. Trying to gauge her worth against a wealthy adult figure, she's demanding a validation of her new currency.
But the moment is brutally cut short when Tammy barrels down.
And instantly transforms from a pathetic moth to a butterfly. She blushes sock-hop red, becomes all solicitous.
She confiscates the gun, dismisses Luli, and just leaves with Mr. Feld, who Nick later dismisses as kind of gay.
Which is likely just a jealous mischaracterization.
The next morning is what seals it. Nick wakes up, sees Cammy is gone, and tells Luli to tell his wife he has business out in Shelby, paperwork.
And Luli knows. Instantly and with crushing certainty, he ain't coming back. The paperwork excuse is the final lie of the displaced king.
Before he speeds away in the Nova, Nick offers Luli this final, devastating interaction. He looks at his daughter and projects his own marital failure right onto her.
He says, "You look just like your mother when I first met her. Just blonde and pretty before she got mean."
And his final plea is just the burden of his failure. Don't get mean, Luli. Just stay little and pretty and sweet.
It's the ultimate abandonment cloaked in a toxic warning. He's telling her that her value rests entirely on her passive sweetness and looks, not on her wit or her survival instincts.
And he leaves her with that crushing directive while he flees his life entirely.
So Luli processes her immediate future, either being alone and hungry in the shoebox.
Or being dragged along to witness her mother's sordid affairs with the peeled worm. That's what she calls Loxfeld in wealthy people world.
And she opts for none of the above.
Right. She resolves to operationalize her transactional power and find a sugar daddy who will buy her rich people food and luxury items.
Like reunites in different shaped glasses and a red dress. But critically, she determines Nebraska is too small, too poor, and too aware of her history for this plan to work.
The destination has to be aspirational, chaotic, and grand.
She chooses Las Vegas, Nevada, a place of desert and gambling and lights and drinking, where she can become a legend completely divorced from Lancaster County.
And to finance this journey, Luli finds Tammy's 200 smackers, brilliantly hidden behind the trash can under the kitchen sink.
Money she assumes came from Luxfeld.
She also takes a fancy black bag stolen from a girl she despises who belongs to the Knowles Country Club. Even her choice of luggage is an act of class warfare and defiance.
As she walks down that gravel road, she feels something lifting her, moving her forward. She's convinced I am bigger than this whole state put together.
The starter pistol finally goes pop. But that excitement immediately crashes into the harsh reality of the road.
And this is where her new strategy, based purely on the transactional model she tested with Ray, is immediately challenged, and it fails.
Her first encounter is with Eddie Creaser, a skinny, bug-eyed cowboy who looks like a turtle in a beat-up green and white pickup.
Luli deploys her carefully crafted backstory. "My dad ran away and left me," and she immediately attempts to use her newfound power, offering a peek at her newfound bubbles, trying to make his eyes swirl.
And it fails completely because Eddie is not vulnerable like Ray was. He sees right through her performance.
He insults her, he calls her a 10-year-old smartass and tells her she's too ripe is the problem.
And then the most critical line, "Your mouth's too big."
That critique cuts so deep because it attacks the source of her wit, her identity. So Luli, accustomed to getting a reaction, just snaps. She tries escalating the seduction by changing clothes in the truck.
When he stays composed, she lashes out with just pure verbal cruelty, calling him a fucking cripple and a fucking gimp.
The result is immediate and terrifying for Runaway. He throws her out of the truck.
And she's left alone, sleeping in a ditch. This failure forces Luli to analyze her approach. Her initial aggressive, confrontational use of her power failed.
So her reflection in the ditch leads to a necessary pivot. Tomorrow, she resolves she will behave in a manner that is slow. I will try to be softer. She recognizes she has to adapt her performance.
While she's alone in that ditch, tossing and turning, Luli brings up this really vital memory of purity and failure.
Her school teacher, Miss Crisp,
A mousy brown woman with sun-scared skin the color of paper, ostracized by the community for her Eastern college ways.
And this memory serves a really powerful thematic purpose. Miss Crisp caught Luli stealing a rejected sandwich from the trash.
And Luli claims she felt sorry for the sandwich.
Right. Horrified by the visible reality of Luli's poverty, Miss Crisp invited her to this dinner of almost overwhelming abundance. Rump roast, Dorothy Lynch salad, 2 pies.
But the sheer generosity only highlighted Luli's desperate state.
The memory takes a darker turn the next day, though, when Miss Crisp makes a house call. She arrives just as Nick is sobbing drunk over Tammy's all-night absence.
And Nick, desperate for revenge against Tammy and fueled by liquor, grabs Miss Crisp by the waist, pulls her off her feet, and kisses her on the mouth for 10 seconds straight.
It's a moment of perverse, drunken violation, a displacement of Nick's rage onto this symbol of purity. Miss Crisp retreats, shocked, and she never returns.
But the true significance of the memory isn't just that. It's the quiet, sustained care that followed.
Miss Crisp never returned, but she left a paper bag daily in Luli's desk. It had grapes, grainy food, and 2 Fred Flintstone vitamins.
It was a subtle, non-transactional act of sustained care. It kept a small light on in the attic of Luli's morality. It's a moral anchor she carries, even when she tries to deny it.
But that memory is quickly overshadowed by her next and much more influential encounter.
She wakes up in the ditch to find a woman pissing straight down like a man. This is Glenda.
Luli immediately recognizes Glenda as someone who has been up to no good. She's a funhouse mirror version of Tammy, a blonde Doris Day flip like my mama, only with a little more roots and a lot more hairspray.
And she's driving a white LeBaron with an incredibly unsettling passenger.
The giant, human-sized, stuffed yellow and white bunny rabbit with black button eyes.
That bunny is this grotesque symbol of the disposable nature of her companions, which Luli is about to become.
Glenda agrees to take Luli to Vegas and immediately establishes herself as Luli's dark mentor. She starts outlining the rules of the road for a successful, cynical life.
Lesson number 1, secrecy about money. You can't go around telling people stuff like that.
When Luli reveals she was thrown out by Eddie Kreezer, Glenda recognizes the name instantly. She calls him a bad apple and rotten to the core, and her hands are shaking.
So this simultaneously validates Luli's fear and solidifies Glenda's connection to this world of low-level criminality.
And it leads directly to lesson 2, which is practical threat assessment. If they see Eddie, Glenda commands, run, don't walk, back to the car, lock the door, and duck.
She also imparts her philosophy on dangerous men. Guys like that, you just got to put to bed, kiss them goodnight, turn out the light, walk out the door, cut your losses. It's pure, cynical, emotional detachment.
The lessons then escalate quickly into the realm of chemical coping mechanisms. Glenda introduces Luli to an oriental vial with a dragon on it.
It contains white powder, and Glenda rationalizes Luli trying it in a safe environment.
Luli instantly recognizes this as cocaine. She recalls Nick's 5-day minge after his job loss, which was the final straw that cemented Tammy's silent resentment and promiscuity.
Her entire life has been framed by the fallout of drug use, and now her mentor is offering it as a tool.
And Glenda uses this moment to deliver her bleak, misogynistic worldview. She lectures Luli on how a man has to know how to fuck you.
She warns against getting wheeled in by boring men who domesticate you until you don't even remember your own name. It's just Mrs. something or other, Mrs. Shitbag.
Glenda is preaching that shame and submission are inevitable unless Luli maintains total emotional control. It's a direct challenge to Nick's plea of stay little and pretty and sweet.
Glenda is telling her to get mean. And this leads to lesson 3, a crucial psychological survival mechanism.
How to control your internal narrative. When dwelling on negative thoughts, Glenda says, put a quarter in the jukebox and change the record.
Just force yourself to think positive or move on. It's a sophisticated version of the dissociation she learned with the movie perspective. Now it's operationalized for self-control.
And Glenda uses these lessons to lead into her scheme for acquiring provisions, which requires Luli to perform.
Luli has to go into a store alone, ask for gum, and then drop and shake, faking a seizure for about 2 minutes.
And Glenda instructs her to remember to drool from your mouth, maybe by thinking of a lemon or a rhubarb pie.
But Glenda asks Luli the final, affirming question. If she is wily street smart, the survivalist.
And Luli, having internalized Tammy's ceiling lesson and Glenda's cynicism, agrees, I do believe I am. The apprentice is ready.
The execution of the plan happens at a store called Custer's Last Stand, and Luli immediately feels this genuine moral conflict.
She feels guilty about deceiving the elbow-faced man of about 160 years who is missing 2 front teeth. She knows he seems pure, kinda.
She tries to rationalize her way out of it, but necessity and Glenda prevails. So she executes the seizure perfectly. She hits the cold tile, shakes violently, and successfully generates drool by thinking of rhubarb pie. She's a phenomenal actress.
But the planned distraction spirals into this completely unexpected tragedy. The old man, in his shock and fear, clutches his heart and keels over smack bang on top of me.
She is literally pinned under what she realizes is a nearly dead body. It's a sudden, physical representation of the collateral damage Luli causes when she uses her survival skills.
And Glenda's reaction upon finding Luli under the body is immediate, pure panic.
Nice work, kid. Now we're murderers.
But Luli, who just felt guilt moments before, activates Glenda's lesson 3. She changes the record. She analyzes the situation. A cover-up is necessary, she determines. It's better to just call the cops and play dumb.
Glenda adopts her impromptu identity, Cheryl Tarkington, calling 911, pretending to be a traumatized mother with her daughter Isabel. The police arrive. White bread, tall, handsome, flirty, and Mexican cop.
And the scene becomes this bizarre fusion of life and death trauma and casual objectification. White bread is immediately taken with Glenda,
Who flirts brazenly while the dying man is being attended to, asking the officer, "Are you sure you're old enough to be a cop?"
The performance is seamless, and the outcome is a narrow escape. The old man is alive, looks like there's life in him yet, and taken to the ER.
White bread tries to arrange a date, but Mexican cop foils the plan by mentioning his wife. So Glenda escapes the scene satisfied, concluding, "I'd say that went well. The entire near murder is just assessed as a successful performance."
And the reward, once they cross into Wyoming, the psychological symbol of safety and salvation, is the final cement in Luli's new identity. Glenda gives Luli her full share.
1,000 smackers, exactly half. Down the line, you and me, the actress and the thief.
And Luli's new identity is cemented. I am no sucker, not anymore, I'm a sidekick. She has officially graduated from victim to active participant in criminality.
But this partnership, the actress and the thief, is built on Glenda's fundamental cynicism, which Luli is about to learn firsthand.
They arrive in Lusk, Wyoming, pulling into Blaine's Lanes, a bowling alley attached to a bar where the bartender, Blaine, knows Glenda.
Blaine has salt and pepper hair, piercing green eyes, and there Luli meets Angel, a skinny Mexican boy who is mute.
And Blaine attempts to interpret Angel's signing, saying he's trying to signal love to Luli, an act of pure, unsolicited affection.
Luli is mortified. She immediately rejects the vulnerability. She performs a barrage of international hand signals for "fuck you." She is determined to separate herself from Angel and any malady I can catch from that mute.
She rejects that purity and vulnerability in favor of Glenda's hard cynicism, and Angel is visibly hurt. He looks red-eyed and stung, and he bolts.
And this cruelty earns Luli an immediate rebuke from Blaine, who forces Luli to apologize. He admonishes Glenda for her callousness. Blaine is another one of these minor characters who functions as a temporary moral compass.
Luli finds Angel in a gray-white one-room house, where he writes in the gravel, "I'm mute, not dumb."
That statement carries so much weight. It distinguishes his lack of verbal communication from a lack of intelligence.
And Luli recognizes in Angel a quality that reminds her painfully of her father. Helpless and still, the very vulnerability she is running from.
And this shared, silent vulnerability leads to a moment of quiet, intense intimacy. Angel kneels beside Luli's bed, staring, his eyes swirling, but in a way that suggests pure, unexploitative affection, not like Ray.
He tentatively touches her bare skin, tracing his hand up her leg and over her chest, acting awkward, boy-like, fragile.
Luli's response is a perfect demonstration of her dissociation mechanism. She holds still. She chooses to play dead, allowing the intimacy without engaging emotionally. It's a strange, quiet self-inspection.
The moment is broken when Glenda and Blaine return, drunk, and Glenda leaves with Blaine for his room. And Luli observes Glenda's movement keenly.
Glenda always knows when to leave and how.
And Luli believes Glenda knew about Angel's nocturnal visit, suggesting her mentor is already testing her boundaries and her emotional capacity for entanglement.
Glenda's ability to always leave is about to be proven, but not in the way Luli expects. The next destination is Jackson Hole.
Described by Luli as a place for rich people who pretend to be poor.
They're greeted by Lloyd, an ox of a man, and Glenda's sweet honey bride, as he calls her, wearing snakeskin cowboy boots. And Glenda whispers the familiar urgent warning to Luli.
Don't fuck this up.
But the tension is immediately ratcheted up when the person sitting at the bar is the very man Glenda warned Luli about.
Eddie Creaser. And Glenda just ignores him, acting as if his presence is immaterial, or perhaps expected.
Lloyd treats Luli with this disturbing affection, mixing her a 7 and 7 and then throwing her fully clothed into his pool. Luli realizes his hospitality is purely performative.
She drives off and peeks through the window, witnessing Glenda moving up and down, not wearing a stitch, her back twitching with carved-out muscles. A moment that confirms the transactional, physical nature of Glenda's high-stakes relationships.
Eddie reappears, drinking tequila, looking snide. And Luli notes this strange, unsettling sense of shame and guilt rising in her.
A flicker of that light in the attic that Miss Crisp left her.
Eddie offers to teach Luli to drive and suggests ice cream. They end up at the $1 Million Cowboy Bar.
And Eddie initiates a pool hustle with a faded everything stranger for $100. Eddie wins the first game, but the stranger raises the stakes, reveals himself to be a skilled hustler, and wins the next game and the money.
Eddie is revealed to be a loser, a repeat of Nick, the failed king.
The stranger then offers this chilling counterbet to call off the debt. He offers to call it off if Eddie gives him Luli.
And Eddie agrees. He positions Luli for the trade by calling her darlin' and pulling her chin up, playing the romantic part to get her to comply.
The transactional power she thought she controlled is now being used against her, turning her into chattel. He sends Luli to the bathroom to wait.
And the stranger follows, blocking the door, revealing the devastating truth. You're the bet, little girl. Your uncle lost. Luli realizes the full weight of the betrayal.
In the terrifying ensuing struggle and assault in the bathroom stall, Luli fights back violently. She bites the stranger, struggles until she is nearly exhausted.
But in that moment of physical violation, there is this profound, self-shaming realization. Luli feels a new and tingly sensation and recognizes she is mirroring the patterns of the women she fled.
She realizes, I am my mama's daughter and that I am rotten to the core.
This internal declaration is just devastating. She sees the transactional nature of her existence cemented in her DNA. The rotten feeling is the moral cost of her survival, the internalized shame of living in a world where she must constantly sell or trade her worth.
Eddie bursts in, flattens the stranger, and they flee. And Luli confronts him. Just 'cause you're a loser don't give you the right to sell me off like some two-bit hooker.
And Eddie, desperately trying to save face, denies it. He says, that was all part of my plan. Just buying time. Luli just scoffs at his pathetic strategy.
Later at an ice cream stand, he tries to offer a genuine compliment. He says she is smart and pretty. That's a deadly combination.
But he ruins it. He ruins it by calling her a furry little animal sort of way.
Yeah.
He can only appreciate her as a wild, exploitable object.
And yet, despite all the evidence of his failure and betrayal, Luli's need for an ideal protector, a displacement of Nick, causes her to cling to the fantasy.
She still casts Eddie in her mind as her leading man, an Elvis-style cowboy, fantasizing about meeting him on a wedding cake. The dissociation is strong. She needs to believe in a hero, even one who tried to sell her.
But the final, absolute betrayal is yet to come, and it shatters both the Eddie fantasy and the Glenda partnership. They visit this squalid shack where Eddie buys a Ziploc bag of white powder from two girls, Sherry and Crystal.
And Luli notes the abject poverty. Girls plagued by flea bites, a tiny yellow crib next to a pizza covered in cockroaches.
This scene crystallizes Luli's rejection of total destitution. She resolves, my mama did not raise me to be skanking it in Skanksville. She realizes this level of failure is not her path.
Eddie convinces Luli to head to the Motel 6 in Devil's Slide, Utah, claiming Glenda wants to meet them there. The promise of reunion is the last thread of hope Luli has in Glenda.
And in the room, Eddie, drunk and in his underwear, delivers the crushing blow. He confesses the truth.
Glenda paid him $1,000 to take care of you, and she asked me to take you off her hands.
Luli realizes Glenda abandoned her, treating her not as a partner, the sidekick, but as an inconvenient object, like the giant stuffed bunny rabbit, something to be paid to dispose of. The partnership was just another transaction, and Luli was the traded commodity.
While seeking ice, Luli encounters her final lesson in class and exploitation. She meets Clement's handsome, green eyes, entitled Confidence, and his stepmother, Edna.
Who looks like a horse, a clear gold digger.
Clement instantly connects with Luli, revealing his secret. Edna likes to pretend she's my wife when his dad, Buck, is gone.
And this is Luli's ultimate moment of clarity regarding social class and safety. She realizes that wealth provides no immunity from perversion, dysfunction, or shame.
She understands. If you've got someone, some horse mouth, paying you a visit in the middle of the night, well, then you might as well be sitting down in a shack in Crapsville, because you still ain't safe and never will be.
Shame and exploitation are universal. The only difference is the price of the ticket.
Eddie bursts in, clocks Clement in the eye out of jealous possessiveness or maybe a final failed attempt at chivalry, and drags Luli back to the truck.
And Eddie's final words to Luli are a bitter, incoherent jumble about little sluts and being loyal and you never know who to trust. Luli is left alone with her money, abandoned by her father, her mother, and now her mentor.
So, to synthesize this journey, Luli began seeking power, that eye swirl and validation as an antidote to poverty and neglect.
And she found that the cycle of deceit and exploitation is universal. It applies equally to the low-level predatory bartender Ray, the strategic criminal Glenda, the failed hustler Eddie, and the wealthy, entitled Clement.
Her only constant is her newly recognized rotten-to-the-core nature, born of her mother's DNA, and amplified by her own calculated choices.
Her coping strategies have become incredibly refined, but also damaging. The movie perspective provides psychological distance, and the change-the-record mindset prevents debilitating dwelling.
But the use of the white powder gives her a physical, metallic, numb feeling. These strategies are all desperate attempts to cultivate control in a world where she is continuously being traded, abandoned, or forced into dangerous situations.
She has agency now, yes. But the price is her vulnerability.
She left home because she recognized that for her father, she was like picking a piece of lint off your shirt sleeve, accidental and unimportant.
She exchanged that position for a life of being a transactional commodity, the sidekick. Luli successfully built an identity independent of those who should have loved her, but that identity is founded on cynicism, emotional detachment, and self-shame.
So the ultimate question for the learner here isn't just about Luli. It's about the nature of survival itself. When you are forced to build your identity entirely outside the recognition and love of those who should nurture you, is the power and agency you gain worth the permanent, metallic, emotional numbness Luli sought to cultivate through the white powder?
Is that numbness the cost of being unbreakable in a broken world? That's what Luli has to figure out on the road to Vegas.